Hello everybody, welcome back to Fifield Junction and welcome back finally to the Lima Class 37 project. I know it's been ages, it's been months and months since we last made any progress on this project, but we're finally back, we're here and we can finally continue upgrading the loco and basically doing what we're basically aiming to do. Again, I know it's been a while, I've mainly just taken a break to go and do some other things. And also with some of the things that I want to do to this model, I haven't actually done before. So I've gone away and experimented with a few other locos. And when I say a few other locos, it's mainly just been sort of one loco. I'm experimenting, doing a few different things, just to make sure that I'm confident doing it, and just so I have a better understanding of how to do it. As you can see in today's video, we are finally going to be fitting some lights to the model, and that's what I've gone away and had a go at doing on another one of my locos before I did it to this one. So I went away and I fitted a lighting kit to one of my Lima 47s. So I had to go at doing that just to see what it was like fitting lights. And overall it wasn't too bad. The result was, it wasn't 100% okay. For example, only one of the tail lights ended up actually being visible at each end. But apart from that, all of the lights worked perfectly fine. All the other lights were perfectly visible. And overall, I would say for my first attempt at ever fitting lights, I think it wasn't too bad. But now that I've got a better understanding of how to actually fit lights to a loco, hopefully we'll do a better job with this model today. Now, the lighting kits that I'm going to be fitting, it's probably not one of the most common ones. It is by someone on eBay. Whether you can still get them or not, you probably could. I'm sure he's probably done a few more. But it's this one is for the 37/4. However, the loco that we have here is a 37, well, I suppose it's technically a 37-0, but it's a 37-2 as well in a way. And I'm not quite sure how it works, everything, but I'm pretty sure these were most likely classified as 37-0s. They could have been classified as -2s, but as you can see, with the nose end that we have, obviously the lighting kits for the 37-4s, they also have a high intensity headlight on the end as well, and that's obviously what this kit dictates. But it should be fine. All we'll need to do really is most likely just cover up the lights, the high intensity headlights. We could just cover it up with a little bit of tape or a little bit of black tack or something, just so then we don't get any of the light from that LED shining through. And hopefully with that, the kit then should it should look quite effective, and hopefully it should all go well. So obviously to fit the kits, the first thing we need to do is we need to actually take the body off, because we don't actually, well, we do need the chassis, but we're not going to need it until sort of near the end. So if we just unclip the body, again, fairly easy to do. There we are. Then we can put the chassis to one side for now, because obviously what we're interested in for this is the body. Now, usually what you do is you drill holes for all the different lights. So I drill holes for the headlights and for the tail lights. However, with the way a lot of Lima models are designed, you shouldn't really need to drill holes for for all of the lights. Most of the time, you won't have to drill any holes for the headlights, and I'm not going to on this one either, because if we look inside the body, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see, but there is you can see where the clear plastic for the headlight lenses there pokes through inside the body. So what we should be able to do is, if we fit the lighting kit correctly, the light from the LEDs on that kit should then shine through the plastic and out through the holes that are basically already there for the plastic that's already been fitted to the model there. Obviously, we will have to drill holes for the tail lights, but that should be fine. That shouldn't be too hard. But I know for some people, fitting lights to a model can be quite daunting, because you're drilling holes, you're doing all sorts really, so it can be quite daunting. But overall, it's not too hard. It is a fairly easy process. I wouldn't say with this particular kit it's probably the easiest to use, because we are going to have to make some modifications to the chassis, because when we basically glue the lighting panels in place inside the body, we are going to have to take off a little bit of the chassis here, where we've got these bits of plastic sticking up here. We are going to have to file down and cut away some of that, so that the plastic from the chassis here does not interfere with the lighting lenses inside the body. So when we put the body back on, nothing should clash, it should all go back on fine. It should, hopefully, I'm thinking it should be easier fitting like this to this model than the 47, because with the 47 I did have to take quite a lot of plastic off the chassis on that, because on the 47 you also have this plastic going all the way along the front, because obviously then the buffers clip through that and everything. But as we can see on the 37, since the buffers are part of the chassis, you don't have to remove them. We shouldn't have to remove as much plastic on here as I have on my 47. What I will do actually, before we continue, I might just show you the 47 actually, just so you can see what it's like and stuff. So if I just put the 37 to one side, I'll just grab the 47 for you and we can have a look at that quickly. Okay, so here we are. So this is the Lima 47 that I'm also in the process of upgrading. I haven't done any videos on this because some of the stuff that I'm doing on this is easily transferable to the 37 that we're doing as well. So I'm sort of doing some things on this just to see how they're done, and I can transfer those skills over the 37 so that you can then see basically how it's all done. But if we just take the body off the 47, obviously it's a little bit more involved on here than it is on the 37 because we have to take out the buffers. But it's fairly easy to do. The buffers on here are a little bit stiff since I've modified the chassis. But then we should be able to quite easily take the body off, just disengage the clips on either side. There we are. And then the body should come off nice and easily. Oh, and there we are. I might have to do it to the other side actually. There we go. So if I then just spin her around for you. Oh. And there we are. So hopefully you can see that there. So this 47 has had a bit more work than the 37 so far. Obviously, as you can see, it's got the sound decoder in it, it's got all of the lights, it's got the CD motor. Obviously the 37, obviously we're going to be fitting lights today, but it hasn't got the sound decoder yet. But it will get all of that eventually, and I'll show you how to do all of that. But as you can see, we've got the chip here, we've got the 8-pin socket in the middle, then we've got all of the relevant coloured wires coming up, and they've all been soldered together, because as you can see, if I just show you the kit again, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see there, but both LED packs, I suppose, both lighting boards, currently they are separate, but obviously once you fit them, you've then got to solder the relevant coloured wires from both of them together. Then using some extra wire provided, you can then solder a single wire onto the relevant areas of the DTC sockets. If you're using a DTC socket, you might not be, but obviously I'm pretty sure you probably would be for a job like this. But that just means you won't have to solder two wires to each pad on the socket. It's just, I suppose it makes things a bit easier for you. But as you can see, we've got, I hope you can see, we've got the lighting packs at each end there. If I just try and hold the logo a bit closer to the camera for you, so you can see just one end. Ooh. There we are. So you can see, hopefully you can see just there, one of the lighting boards there. You've got the relevant wires coming off. As you can also see, the inside of the cab has been painted black. And this is very, very, very important for you to do. You must do this. I can't stress it enough. If you don't paint the inside of the cab, I suppose you don't have to paint it black, but black will be the best colour, because it will stop any light bleed throughout anywhere else in the body, so that you just get the light shining out of the areas that you actually want it to. If you didn't do all this, then you probably just get light shining out for the entire yellow end of the cab, I suppose, and that wouldn't look very good. So you definitely have to paint the inside of the cab, or you can do the inside of the body fully if you want to, but you don't really have to unless you're fitting cab lights and stuff as well. But it's not too bad. But if I just show you the chassis, you'll see what I mean where I've had to take some of it off. If I just hold it there, as you can see, where the plastic has been cut away and then filed down, this plastic used to continue out all the way along here, all around the front. It was all the same level, but in order to get the body to go back on without the lighting lenses, the lighting boards clashing with the chassis, you do have to cut away and file down the chassis on the ends here to ensure that everything goes back together as it should. I know it does sound quite daunting, quite difficult, and I'm sure some of you out there will probably do a better job than I have, because I literally just used a saw, a file, and the soldering iron at times, which I know isn't very, very good, but it all worked. I've done it quite a lot of times, so I'm quite used to doing it now. It all went fine. I know it doesn't look incredibly neat, but obviously once the body's back on, you're not really going to see it anyway, are you? but obviously we're not interested in the 47 today. This is what we're interested in, but I thought I would just show you the 47 just so you can sort of see the lengths that you're going to have to go to if you want to fit this particular lighting kit. But again, we don't need the chassis. I don't know why I put that back in shop, because again, we don't need it. This is what we're interested in. Now, obviously, before we can fit the LEDs, we need to drill the holes for the LEDs first. Now, again, I'm not going to bother doing them for the headlights, because again, we're not going to need them. But I will do the ones for the tail lights, because, well, there's no holes for them at the moment anyway. So very quickly, before I start drilling, I'll just select the relevant size drill bits that I need. I don't know exactly what size they are, because unfortunately, a long time ago, I accidentally spilt all my drill bits everywhere, so none of them are in the correct place inside the box. So I don't know exactly what sizes all of them are, which I know probably isn't helpful. So I sort of just have to choose by eye, not by size. But I'll go away and I'll choose the relevant sizes anyway. When you fit these kits, you do get instructions emailed to you by the seller, so it's not too bad. So he does tell you what size drill bits you need for headlights, tail lights, etc., for whatever loco that the kit is relevant to. So that's not too bad. Anyway, I'll choose the drill bits and I'll come back, and then we can start drilling the holes. Okay, so here we are. We've got all of the I've got all of the drill bits sat here to one side, as you can see. Now, before we actually start drilling the holes, I will just mention a few things. Now, yes, you are going to need a specific size, or roughly this specific size, to make sure that you drill the right size hole. But one thing I will mention is that you do not want to drill the exact size hole that you need straight away. Always drill some small pilot holes first, to ensure that when you drill the proper size holes, that they're going to be in the right place, and to ensure that nothing's going to go wrong. Because if you drill a pilot hole first, I promise you, it does make it much easier. One thing with the Lima 37s, and it might be similar with the Hormy Railroad ones as well, because they're the same tooling, is that the tail lights do poke out quite a bit from the actual body. They're not completely flush. If I just try and show you, I'm not sure how well I'll be able to see. It might not be easily visible on camera, but the tail lights, what is at the moment the moulded tail light lenses, they do protrude out quite a bit from the actual body. So again, drilling a pilot hole to start with should make it a lot easier. Okay, so here we are. I finished drilling the first hole. Now, it was incredibly stressful, I must admit. If you are going to do this, again, you really do need some patience for this, because it is not easy. The first thing I actually did start with is using the scalp knife. So I just cut away the top of the light lens slightly, just to help flatten off the light a bit. And then that did make drilling the hole a little bit easier. It's not perfect, it's not right in the center of where it should be, but for a pilot hole, it should be perfectly fine. So now what we can do is I'll go away now, I'll do all of the other holes, I'll bore them out with the correct size drill bit as well, and then we can come back and I'll then continue from there, so you can see what I've done. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, so here we are, everybody, we're back. All of the holes have been drilled, they've all been bored out to roughly the right size. So we can now continue with the next stage, but before we do that, I will just show you the holes that have all been drilled. So hopefully you can see there, we've got the holes for the tail lights just there, and it's the same on the other end, just there and there. Now, they're not 100% perfect, and you will struggle quite badly to get them 100% spot on, exactly in the right place. But they might be ever so slightly out in some areas, and indeed on this one, they're not exactly 100% central, but they are roughly in the right place. They might be, for example, maybe up to 0.5 millimeter out in some cases, maybe not that much, but roughly at the maximum around there. But even in that case, it's still not too bad, because they still are in the right place. Obviously, I know there may be some cases where people will be annoyed if they're not exactly right, but to do something like this and get every single light to be drilled out exactly perfectly in the right place, it's probably very unlikely going to happen unless you have that much patience to do it. It's very unlikely going to happen, but as long as you get them roughly in the right place, then you should be fine. Obviously, as long as by the end, as long as all the lights shine through fine and everything is working fine, everything is okay, then you should be perfectly fine. But now that the holes are all drilled, the next thing we need to do is to paint the inside of the body. Now, there are several different ways of doing this. Obviously, you might want to paint the entire inside of the body. You might paint just sort of the ends, or etc, etc. For this, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint the inside of each nose up to just where the windscreen here is here, all the way around there on both ends, because that'll be perfectly fine. We shouldn't get any light bleed anywhere. It should be nice and easy. Just grab a nice small paintbrush. Here we go, this will be fine. Then if we just grab a little bit of black paint, and then if we just spread it out nicely all over the inside of the noses. Now, as I haven't drilled any holes for the headlights, I want to be really, really careful that I don't get any paint on the actual plastic of the lenses, because that won't be very good at all. If we just spread it about nicely. Now, you will need to do more than one coat of this, most likely. 2 or 3 coats should be absolutely fine. You shouldn't need any more than 3 coats. That should be the absolute maximum you should need. But as long as there's no plastic showing through, then that should be absolutely fine. Hopefully you can see the rough idea that I'm going for. Just coat all the insides of there. Obviously, if you are going to do the same as me and you're not going to drill out the holes for the headlights, because you're just going to do what I'm going to do and just make sure that the actual lighting board is just going to contact the back of the plastic for the headlights there. Again, just obviously you want to be careful that you're not going to get any paint on them or anything. But obviously, if you are going to drill out the headlights, then that obviously will make things much easier, because you don't have to worry about covering up any of the plastic or anything. But hopefully you get the idea. So I'll quickly jump forward now to once I've painted both ends with the first coat, and then we'll come back and then you can hopefully see what I'm going for. Okay, so here we are. The first coat of paint has been applied. So as you can see, all of the inside of the noses have been painted. I'll definitely do another coat. It's definitely not 100% spot on, but it's the first coat. It doesn't have to be. I highly recommend, don't try and make sure that there's no plastic showing when you do the first coat, because you don't want to apply too much paint, because then the paint can end up running. You can end up getting paint all over the livery on the side. And even though I've tried to be quite careful, there is a little bit of paint that has run out a little bit out through the lighting lenses. It's mainly only on this end. That's not too bad. Something like that is fine. It's not too noticeable, and when we come to weather the model anyway, we can try and tie that in a little bit. So it's not a massive problem. Well, it's not really a problem at all. It will be absolutely fine. You don't have to worry about that. But the next thing to do now is to just leave this to dry. Then we can go away. Then once this is dried, we can come back. We'll apply another coat. Then we'll go away again to let that dry. Then once all of the paint is dried, and there's definitely not going to be any light bleed, then we can actually go on and fit the kit itself. So I'll go away now, I'll let this dry, then we'll come back later and we can carry on. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, hello everybody, welcome back. It's now quite a few days later since you last saw me and saw the loco, but we're finally back. She's had a few, well not a few, but she's had she's now had a couple of coats of black paint applied to the nose ends, so there's plenty of coverage now underneath the nose, so we shouldn't have any light bleed now. So we can now actually move on to fitting the actual lighting kit. So if I just put the body to one side for now, we can get the kit out. We'll have a quick look at it just to see basically what it's like. So there we go, that's all of the bits. So if we just have a look at one of the lighting boards first, so if we can just see there, we've got all of the relevant LEDs. So we've got the tail lights each side there. We've got the 2 top lights there, which will obviously shine through the nose there. Then we've also got the bottom high intensity headlights there as well. But obviously, since this lighting kit is for 37-4, but we're going to be fitting it to one of the -2s, we don't need that center headlight there. So literally all we're going to do is we're just going to grab a small piece of electrical tape, and this should hopefully cover up the LED, or at least cover it up enough, so then when we actually go to fit the kit, we shouldn't see any light from that particular LED. So if we just cut a small piece of tape off, now if we cut that in half as well, so we can do both lighting boards. There we go. get rid of that. Get rid of any rubbish. Now we can just stick that over the top like that. So there we go. So that's that LED covered up. We can still see all the other LEDs that we need, so that should be fine. And then we can also do the same with the other board. Again, just place that over the top. And there we go. So that's both boards now all nice and basically all set up, ready to go. So we can now fit them to the loco. But we've also got a few other bits here as well. We've also got a few bits of spare wire. Well, it's not spare wire, but extra coloured wire here. Because basically what we'll do is once we've basically fitted both lighting boards to the end of the loco, we can then solder the relevant coloured wires from each board together, and so onto those connections we can then solder those extra bits of wire, so that then we only have to worry about basically soldering one piece of wire to each section, well basically each pad on the 8-pin socket. We don't have to worry about soldering multiple wires on there, and it gets more messy and stuff. It should just make things a bit easier. One thing we've also got is these two almost LEDs. Well, yeah, they're basically spare LEDs. I'm pretty sure these spare LEDs here are for the high intensity headlight. But obviously, since we're not using it, because we don't need it, we shouldn't need those either. So we can put those to one side. All we really need, we can put this bit of thin plastic here as well. I believe this is also supplied, so that if you want to, you can fit it into the lenses of the tail lights, and it should make the tail lights look a bit better. But I'm not going to bother doing this. You can if you want. I have tried on another loco, but it's very fiddly to do, so I just didn't bother. And the lights still look fine without it. So we can put those to one side as well. Now, if we put those bits of wire to one side, the first thing I'm going to do is we'll just bring the chassis back into shot. What we'll do is we'll quickly just take out the chip. Let's grab a small screwdriver. There we go. If we just take the chip out for the moment, because we don't need it. And there we go. So put the chip to one side. We've now got some nice, decent access to the actual to the socket there. Now we'll just check actually to make sure which wires go where. So we've got the two motor wires there. Got the motor left and motor right. We've also got the pickups as well. So we need these three. Basically, we need the three tabs here, and these two on this side, and also the one here next to the pickups. So if we just grab the soldering iron, and if we just put a bit of solder on all those pads that we need, there we are. So with that done, we can now grab the first board. And what we'll do now is, instead of actually gluing it into place, what we'll do quickly is we'll actually solder it temporarily onto the socket here, and then we can then turn the LEDs on and basically see. Then we can get a better idea of when we're actually putting the board into place. We can make sure that it's lined up perfectly, and that none of the LEDs are in the wrong place, and it should hopefully make everything easier, so that by the end all of the LEDs are where they should be. There's nothing's wonky, and everything's all lined up properly. Okay, so here we are. As we can see, the first lighting board has been fitted. It's all been super glued in, so it should be nice and secure now. It shouldn't go anywhere. And basically using the LEDs whilst they've been turned on, it's helped me line everything up so that none of the LEDs are wonky. So everything's gone in nicely. It's all lined up. So if I just turn the lights on, there we go. You can see the tail lights there. They are quite bright. They're brighter than I was expecting, and they probably are bleeding ever so slightly. However, that's not too bad. Now, if we change direction, we can see we've got the headlights there. Now, I know they're quite dim. That's obviously because usually you would have the headlight there as well. But overall, they didn't look too bad. I'd say for a 1980s loco, the lights on those weren't incredibly bright anyway. So overall, it doesn't look too bad. Everything's lined up nicely, and it all looks really good. So all that's left to do now is to do the other lighting board. So I'll quickly go away and do that. Then we can wire everything together, wire it all back in properly. Then we can see and check that both ends are working properly. Okay, so here we are. So as we can see, both lighting boards have now been fitted. and everything's been tested, everything's lined up perfectly, and it's all working fine. So the next thing to do is need to take the wires from both of these lighting boards, solder them to these small lengths of wire. Everything, I've already prepped everything. All of the ends of these wires have been tinned, as well as these small lengths of wire. Both ends of those have been stripped and tinned, so everything's ready to be soldered together. We do still need to do a little bit of modification to the chassis, but we can worry about that in a moment once we've got everything wired up. So I'll get everything wired up now, and then we can come back and test to make sure it's all working. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, so here we are. So as we can see, everything's been wired in, and using some small bits of black tack, I've secured all of the wiring to the inside of the body. So that should make it less visible from basically from the outside, and it will also stop it from basically flapping around inside the loco, stopping it from touching any of the gears or causing any other problems or anything. As we can see, we've also got the connections here where all of the wires connect together. I've secured those with a big blob of black tack to the roof as well, just to hold them out of the way. So all that's left to do now is, well, to test, I suppose. So all we need to do, if we just we can just place the body on the chassis for now. The body still won't go back on as it is, because we still need to modify the loco a little bit. So if we just put it on the track like that, and then if we put the lights on, there we are. We can see the headlights there. If we give her a bit of a wiggle, yeah, she's still working nicely, and change direction. That's good. And then if we go to the other end, you can see we've got the headlights there. Again, I know they're not very bright, but at least they're there, which is good. And if we change direction again, we can see the tail lights there. You do have to be quite low down to actually see them in the lenses, but they are in the right position, I do promise you. You can just about see them, I think, but they are there, and they are working as they should. So that's good. So all we need to do now is we just need to do these small bits of modification to each end of the chassis. Basically just file and take off a bit of the chassis, because that's at the moment, that small bit of the chassis at the end is basically catching the lighting boards where they've been fitted. So we just need to take off a bit of that, then the body can go back on properly, and that'll be it. So that'll be the lights fitted. So if we go back, if we put the camera back to where it was, we can then carry on and do the next bit. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, there's just one quick thing left we need to do before we can put the body back on the chassis. So all we need to do is, if we just grab a little craft knife, we might have to grab something bigger, but we'll see. And we basically just need to chop away a small bit of the overhang of the edge of the chassis. Where you can see we've got the this overhang on the chassis here. We just need to take a little bit of it off at the front here at each end, and that will then should then leave plenty of room for the lighting board to go back down on the chassis without it clashing with anything. So if I just rotate the loco back round, if I just make a small cut, very, very gently, yeah, that's definitely not going to work. We're going to need something bigger. So extreme measures. So if we grab the hacksaw, this is actually what I used last time when I did the 47. So if we just start there where I made the small cut with the craft knife, and if we then cut away, and there we are. So we get rid of those little bits of plastic. And there we are. And as you can see there, we've taken a small bit of the chassis off at the front there. So if I quickly go away now, I'll do the same to the other end, and then we should be able to put the body back on. Okay, so here we are. So the body's back on. It's all gone back on quite easily. So there's definitely nothing catching, and taking away that small bit of the chassis, it's definitely made plenty of room. So all that's left to do now is just do one more check to make sure that everything still works. There we are. So we can see the headlights there, and if we change direction, there we are. We can still see the tail lights there as well. So let's give it a bit of a wiggle. And still nice and smooth, just as it was before. excellent. So that's the next bit of the project complete then. So the next thing to do will be sound fitting. That should hopefully be fairly soon. I should be able to get the decoder fairly soon, hopefully, once it comes back in stock, because currently the decoder that I want to get unfortunately isn't in stock with the retailer that I'm going with. So it's a bit of a shame, but hopefully we'll be able to get sound in her soon. It's going to be a really good sound file. Hopefully, from what I've heard, it's very, very good. It's one I haven't tried before. We're going to go for a nice big speaker inside as well to get some really good bassy sound. So hopefully we should see that fairly soon. But at least now she's got some light. She's got a bit of extra life in her now. So overall, really successful, I think. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully it will give you some courage and hopefully some more knowledge to fit some lights to any of your Lima 37s or Hornby Railroad 47s. And I suppose the next thing to do is to give the loco a good run once again. Enjoy it some more, and I'll see you in the next video. So take care, everyone, and thanks for watching.